All right, today we're meeting in Hartford Real-Time Crime Center with Sergeant Mastroianni, and we're going to go over a couple of different case studies here on how video is changing community policing and some of the other things outside of the typical crime-solving capabilities of this agency that are helping other departments within the city. So. Sarge, why don't you say hello to the group here, and we're going to what I'm going to ask you to talk about is some of the approach, the collaborative approach that Hartford Real-Time Crime Center is using to help some of the other different agencies within the city.
Yeah, I think when you think of police, cameras, technology, we obviously focus in on criminal acts. For a city like Hartford, we do experience high levels of gun violence, so that's been our main focus with our technology use, is creating solvability around gun violence. But there are some other things that go on in the city that the city has leaned on us to help them with. Some of these other smaller level problems that are still large nuisances and that cost the city a lot of money that we can bring solutions to as well.
All right, very good. So we're going to get into a little bit of that as we're going to go through. And one of the cases we're going to talk about today that I know it happens in every city, every town in America, is illegal, maybe nightclubs or different things that go on in homes that aren't sanctioned. And, a lot of stuff comes in where you'll get complaints that you might not be able to act on. But could you walk us through a situation we got here that you uncovered in Hartford about maybe illegal partying or something?
Yeah, so illegal nightclubs is really hard to address, especially when the people throwing the parties own the house. So an example we're going to show you here, the people that are operating this illegal nightclub actually own this facility, own this house. So we know you can have parties at your house, right? So it's hard to address. We started getting a lot of complaints of late overnight parties, complaints of noise, music, large groups of people, and it actually erupted into gunshots and higher level crimes like that outside this building. At first glance, it does look like a house having a party, but how do you really address that? It's not illegal to have people at your house. So we really worked in conjunction with city officials, the fire marshal, to try to see are there code violations going on there? Are they having too many people inside of a basement without a secondary egress? Are they charging a cover? Are they illegally selling liquor in there? And those are outside our scope normally as police. Illegal liquor sales is like a license and inspection thing. Code violations in the basement would be a fire department, fire marshal thing. But how can we work together to solve this? The fire marshal here has the ability to do what's called an administrative warrant. It's a search warrant to go into the premise and look for code violations and safety violations. However, he needs some sort of proof to do that. When he was trying to get into this residence here, he was getting some pushback from the courts, rightfully so. They wanted more proof of what was going on in his house. So we did move a mobile camera over here in front of the house to try to capture what was going on between the hours of 2 in the morning and about 5, 6 in the morning, which is kind of hard. You can have a police officer drive by once in a while, and they did respond to this residence once in a while for noise complaints. But how do you capture the whole picture of what's going on? For this instance, we move a camera over here. We start taking a look on the weekends of what's going on. And we see that around 2 in the morning, 2:30 in the morning, which is when your bars and nightclubs close, people are now moving over to this house. Again, you're allowed to have people over your house, but how many people is reasonable? How many people are you packing in a basement? In this instance, we know that the basement door is on the side of the house here. So as we start watching this video, we don't see people going from the front door. We see people going down this driveway. Again, now that we have 4 or 5 hours of this video, how can I show this to the judge? You're not going to bring a judge 5 hours of video. So what we use for this one is BriefCam to really compress down a whole overnight scenario and get a picture of what's going on at this house.
So, Sarge, in that case there, also that was tied into your video management system, and how did that play out?
Yeah, so obviously we can pull this video right out of our milestone video management system directly into BriefCam and start working the video very quickly. The first thing we notice here is people counts, how many people are going into this residence in a matter of a few hours overnight. You can see here, BriefCam instantly shows us several pictures of individuals going into that club. We had up to 1,300 people movements in a 4-hour period here overnight, which is not obviously a normal party.
And so, other than the noise complaints and amount of people going, what are some of the other concerns about having these massive parties?
Yeah, obviously, if you're cramming 200-300 people in the basement, if there's a fire, it's going to be devastating. We also got into, again, these were spilling out into some shots fired, different things like that. And again, if you lived here and this was going on in front of your house in the middle of the night, it's just a nuisance. It's a safety concern in the house. It's could be illegal. We don't know what's going on in there. Again, there was people telling us that there was illegal liquor sales going on there, cover charges. The point of the administrative warrant was to try to get in there, see these code violations, and also see signs of that. Is there a bar? Is there a cash register? That's why to really help out this neighborhood, we need to get inside that house.
So when the complaint originated, what did you do? Did you put up the camera to capture all this? What was the sequence of the events?
Yeah, these complaints came in over the course of the whole summer, many months, where we were trying to address it in different ways, and we were just having no luck. They were having these parties, whether the police were there or not, whether we asked them to shut it down, quiet, they were having it. So again, we needed to kind of bring this to a different level and lean on some other city entities and work together and try to get into this residence and see what was going on. So obviously in BriefCam here, we see people all over the place walking around, but the next step I want to see is where are they going? What is the path taken? Where are these people going? BriefCam, it's simple. You can do a simple heat map, and we see obviously people going down that driveway. So that is the path we've traveled. So all these people you see in this picture, you can see all the arrows. They are eventually funneling down that driveway, again, which we know is where the basement door is to this place.
What's interesting about this is almost no one uses the front door. So right now I have the ability to either draw a box or a little arrow of trying to see who's walking up the front door. And nearly no one uses that entrance. Everyone is using the basement ingress of you.
And I think a reasonable person who would have a party at their house, most people would probably enter through the front door. You get a couple there with a 2-3 all night.
Yep.
And I think they even come back out and end up going back down that driveway. But Joe, if you could just, with the BriefCam tool, draw that line down the driveway.
Sure.
Really paint a picture here of where these people are going.
So we can draw directly on the video, I guess.
So with that tool, we're asking BriefCam to just eliminate all the noise and just show us what is going on in that driveway.
So Sarge, in this video here, a lot of this is, is this an 8-hour video that you just kind of went through? Or the judge to show him what he needed in minutes?
Yeah, this is about a 4 or 5 hour video because this party tends to end when the sun comes up around 6 in the morning.
Yeah, so Sarge, now it looks like we're in night 2 of the same type activity, a lot of traffic. Kind of walk us through what's going on here and what the conclusion was in all this.
Yeah, so we ran this 2 nights in a row, Saturday night and Sunday night. And as you can see, we're just getting a consistent flow of people right down the driveway. And I actually ran this 2-3 weekends in a row to really solidify that this was going on every single weekend. It wasn't an isolated incident. We were able to provide these short clips like this to the courts to show them the mass amount of people going down here. It ended up getting an administrative search warrant to go into that basement and see what was going on in that basement. We kind of found what we were expecting to see. There was a cash register, a bar. There was no secondary egress in the basement. There was no bathroom. Loads of code violations, improper sheetrock. And it really helped us levy some fines on them and shut down and get this whole scenario to an end and bring some relief to that neighborhood on the weekends.
So it's just another thing that your organization here is doing to help other department heads, i.e. the fire marshal, and just to make the city safer.
Yeah, it's not a typical use case for what we do with our technology, but extremely helpful for the city. And the more we can get everybody using this technology, the more buy-in we're getting. If our other city entities are using this technology and leveraging this, it really helps when you're looking for funding, you're looking to expand, you're looking for maintenance costs. The more buy-in you can get from all these entities within the city, it doesn't have to be just the police department thing. We are the end users of it. We're the ones that are going to do this for them. But if we can get public works using this technology, the fire department, anyone else in the city using this technology, it's just going to be helpful for us, for the police department. It's going to help with funding, maintenance costs, if we want to expand, even with the community, with our buy-in from the community. If we're using our technology to solve community issues like this, it's just going to be a big win for everyone.
And I'm sure the neighborhood was quite happy after you shut this down, because being someone that living in one of these houses, it must have been a concern.
Yeah, we had a lot of frustrating citizens go out here because it was going on for a long time, because we were kind of struggling as a police department to really figure out how to address this outside of, you can knock on the door, you can tell them to be quiet, you can tell them to stop at this party. They were defiant. They just kept on doing it. So really it took the city going in there with code violations and levying strict fines on them to finally get them to stop.
And I have a question about video analytics and video in general. So had you not had this real-time crime center in your team, what's the typical policing way of dealing with this?
Yeah, again, because we don't have a lot of direct criminal activity, so to speak, going on, what's going on is inside, and what's going on is a lot of like licensing and permitting. Yes, selling alcohol is illegal, but it's really a permitting issue, a license inspection. Again, this was just really challenging to really bring to an end. We can bring momentary band-aids to it. We tell them to quiet down, we tell them to shut it down, and sometimes maybe they would for that night, but the next night they'd be right back up. So without technology, it was really going to be hard to really show the courts what they needed to see just this influx of hundreds of people going down a driveway in a particular night, which is not normal. It's not reasonable behavior. It's not a reasonable party. So without technology, I think we may still be struggling with this to this day.
Yeah, you can use all the data from BriefCam and then put it into visualization. So this is like one of the things that you can see right there on your screen. You can see how many people are entering or exiting hour by hour. If you have kind of an estimate of what the occupancy is, you can say maybe 10 people are allowed in that building for safety and fire code. But by using this technology, you can see that at one point there's nearly 400 people in this building. So this is one of the things you can call.
All right, now what we'd like to do, Sarge, is just dive into another case that I think every city and town in America experiences. That's illegal dumping. And I know it's very costly for cities, and I think we've got some clips here we'd like to play, and then have you do a little deep dive into how it affects Hartford and maybe other communities and cities around the U.S.
Hartford have made a number of arrests in connection to illegal dumping. And that happens when people, including contractors from out of town, dump their trash in another city without a permit to avoid paying costs.
You should not expect to get away with it if you treat Hartford like trash and you illegally dump in our city.
It lines the roads and sidewalks, from small items like magazines to much larger ones like mattresses, bathtubs, and toilets. Illegal dumping is trashing areas like this one in Hartford. Much of the junk found in the neighborhood is from those coming out of town who refuse to pay money to dispose of their items properly. Police have made 4 arrests in connection to illegal dumping. 3 of those arrests were contractors dumping construction debris.
So it's not a good place to do it right now. We are strategically placing technology to create some solvability around this crime.
The city has installed cameras in hotspots like this one in an effort to crack down on illegal dumping. Officers say the issue can be difficult to enforce due to the areas and times of day when it happens. The cameras are high resolution and will be able to capture license plates.
So there, let's do a little deeper dive into what's going on here in Hartford. I know we look at other cities across the U.S., depending on the population, the problem is even more magnified. But tell us a little bit about in Hartford, what it's cost, what it's uncovered, and how you've handled it.
Yeah, so illegal dumping, again, not your typical crime you associate using technology or real-time crime center with, but it is a big problem that we've been battling here in the city. We are a small city, we're 17 square miles, so when you start dumping trash in different parts of the city, we very quickly could become an ugly city. And it's a big, big complaint that we get from not only our citizens, but other city entities like Public Works. So we had this one area here that we're going to show you that they were dumping over and over and over again. And again, the challenge with illegal dumping is they do it where you typically can't see. They're not going to dump trash at an intersection where your cameras are. They're using dead end streets and the little nooks and crannies in the city. So in this instance, we had a one street here that they were continually dumping over and over again, and the city reached out to us and said, "Is there anything you can do to help us here? We're just getting dumped here, and it's costing the city a lot of money to pick up all this trash." So we moved a camera over here with 2 license plate readers on it to try to bring some solvability over here in this intersection. Yeah, so we placed the camera over here. As you can see, we had a PTZ, a couple fixed LPR cameras, and we immediately the next day we captured our first illegal dumping. As you can see here, we have a van pulling in. It's going to dump some furniture out in this intersection. It's going to dump some furniture out in this dead end street here that nobody's looking, nobody can see, but our cameras see it really good. So he backs in, he dumps some trash. As this vehicle leaves, we get a really good shot of the license plate. As he drove in, we got a really good shot of the license plate and the driver, and that's important in these cases when you're trying to make an arrest, because oftentimes they will rent vehicles, so they'll rent a U-Haul or some sort of commercial truck, so the truck gets returned, who was driving the truck. But you can see here, clean shot of the license plate after he dumped it.
And you have another LPR camera right here too.
Yep. Joe, can you just show when he's pulling in at this view? I'll show you how we got not only the front plate. We don't like to rely on front plates because not everybody have front plates. In this instance, he did. If you freeze it there, keep going. Right in there, we get a good shot of the driver. So if we run the license plate and we're getting a DMV hit, or if it's a rented vehicle and we're getting a name of the vehicle, we can kind of match, show that to the court. It makes it undeniable. Now you have your vehicle, your license plate, and I also have a picture of you driving the vehicle. So this goes from a simple, quick dump of trash to instantly solvable right away.
So from their side, what happens next? They go to court. What's the process of, are there fines? Do they pay for the cleanup? How's all that work in Hartford?
So the way we do this is our Public Works goes out. Even though we've made the arrest, they still have to go out and clean it.
Yep.
Our Public Works will go out and clean it. They will give us a value of how much it costs to remove that trash, and that includes the gas in the DPW truck to go there, the employee they're paying, the retrieval of the trash and the turning that into a transfer station, wherever it needs to go. They will give us a value. We will include that value in the arrest warrant, and then the judge will order them to pay restitution back to the city. In instances where it's even a larger trash dump, we can actually seize the vehicle that was used, and it's an asset forfeiture of that vehicle.
Yeah, so I think what happens here with BriefCam, I can see what you're doing here in your real-time crime center. A lot of times, just having the ability to go in and go through this video quickly, see if there's any common patterns that are being developed. I see here, in this case, a boat's being dumped. We see mattresses. We see a lot of contractors putting contents in big bags and dumping that. Tires are a problem. So every city I talk to around the country, seems like they all have their own problems with dumping, but the bottom line is it's very costly. There's some cities that runs over $1 million a year. And so in this case, you're recouping money. You could use our LPR feature here as well to pull the plate.
Yeah, so why BriefCam can be a really powerful tool in this is when we have some illegal dumping, especially tires and illegal dumping is a big problem. So if we have a big pile of tires, we know it was a truck, right? So now we can filter all the cars and just bring me to the truck. It's probably a pickup truck, and I can filter through some thumbnails and find the truck that has tires in the back. Same with the boat. We know if there's a boat dropped off, it must have been a truck that towed the boat. Again, just filtering out trucks, finding the one that's pulling the boat. and that's how BriefCam really can be helpful in the illegal dumping like this. This is a boat dumping we had. Again, we know most of the time cars are not pulling a boat. We're going to use BriefCam to find all the trucks that went down that street. Boom, we got right there, pulling the boat. They will dump that boat into the street, take the trailer, turn in the trailer to the scrapyard for metal. Now that we got the vehicle pulling the boat, it matches the picture of the boat that's dumped. We get the license plate of the truck. We match it to who dumped the trailer at the scrapyard. And this was a really good case for us here using Milestone and BriefCam.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah, so what we'd like to talk about now, Sarge, is all the great things that are going on in the city, and they're all really by the dedication of all the people that work in your real-time crime center. I guess you've been having a record year in the number of gun violence, and the numbers are being lowered. Why don't you walk us through a little bit of what's happened over the last few years?
Yeah, certainly in the past 2 years, we've seen our gun violence lowering. In 2024, we actually experienced our lowest level of gun violence victims in almost 20 years. A lot of things that go into play in the reduction of gun violence, but I do believe that one of the big ones is the solvability we've created in technology in this real-time crime center. The more solvability we are creating on the crime, the more apprehensions of shooters we're going to have. The less shooters on the streets, that's when you really should see a reduction in gun violence. And I think we've done a really good job with that here. In conjunction with some of our other initiatives in the city, the result of that was the lowest gun violence year in almost 20 years in Hartford.
That's remarkable, because most cities, the numbers go in the opposite way. So it's definitely a testimony to what you're doing here, and for sure the technology. I think what we're seeing across the country, all departments trying to keep their sworn numbers up is a challenge. So if you're not utilizing technology, which you have embraced here for many years, I think you guys were ahead of the curve, and now you're just building upon it. And I know a lot of different agencies from across the country like to come visit, because go with the experience. I mean, you don't want to make a bad decision on what you're going to deploy in your city, but to come to folks like yourself that have done it, they've experienced it, they know the good from the bad, I think it's important.
Yeah, and you talk about staffing levels, Tim. The examples we showed you, the illegal nightclub, we could put 2 cops on the street with binoculars for 7 hours to try to see and get a handle on what's going on there. But can we afford to do that right now in our staffing levels? We can simply just put a camera out there and lean on technology to do that job for us.
And by having the video, let's talk a little bit about that. We're going to pull this graph up here, and this is a study you worked on yourself with another gal. Why don't you tell us how the impact of having cameras up when it comes to solving crimes and getting a conviction?
Yeah, so over the last couple of years, we've anecdotally known we're doing a really good job because we know we're creating solvability. We knew we were making a difference. I really wanted to prove it. I really wanted to show it with a study that could help other cities. So we did co-author a study, a research study here in 2023. It was published in October of 2024. It was a sample size of shooting cases here in the city of Hartford. We case evaluated each one of those incidents and determined whether there was a real-time crime center activity and a video evidence component to that case. And compared that to cases that did not have that. There's a lot of different really good highlights in that study, but the really big one is that cases that had a video evidence component to it had a 442% increase in the likelihood that it would be solved, which is an enormous number. I knew it was going to be really big. I didn't know it would be that big, but it's an enormous return on investment for your technology.
And I think it's good for other cities that are police departments trying to get their cities on board on looking at a real-time crime center. You can show data like this. I mean, it's pretty hard to dispute. You really should get more involved with technology, even if you don't have a real-time crime center per se, just have some technology, because if you catch it on camera, cameras aren't lying.
Yeah, we did this for other people. We do it for ourselves. We know we're having success here. We really want to help other cities. This is a peer-reviewed, academically published research study. I believe kind of the first of its kind. There's a lot of research done on technology in isolation, but we know that the real power is when you combine these different technologies together with a process and end users like I have behind me. That's where this technology really becomes effective. So we did this study. It is published. If you want it, it's out there. You can read it. But we really did it for other people. We want to really help other cities get the funding to make a difference like this.
Yeah, and we actually read your paper. and pulled out some of the contextual numbers. So I just wanted to show that if you collect DNA at the evidence at the scene of the crime, that only increases the solvability by 39%. If you collect gun casings, that's also only 39%. If you have victim or witness information, then that's 421%. So none of those numbers actually amount to the amount that video contributes to solvability.
Yeah, I think that was one of the surprising things, that video is actually stronger than a cooperating witness.
Yeah.
And we know why. Cooperating witnesses can be found unreliable in court. Sometimes juries do not trust what a cooperating witness is saying, but video doesn't lie. Video is powerful. You show that video, it doesn't lie.
And I'd encourage agencies across the country to just get a hold of this study, because I think, once again, when you can have hard, cold facts like this and present them to your city decision makers, it will help.
All right, so let's get this started. So the first question is very open-ended. It's how do you start off building one of these real-time crime centers? And I think we can kind of go around the horn here, talk about how do you implement BriefCam, how do you put in milestone from Kevin, and maybe Sarge, if you have any other kind of insights. So yeah, we'll start with the Sarge. What did it take in the very beginning to set up your command center? What are the things that you really cared about, and why you ultimately went with Milestone and BriefCam?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to realize when starting a real-time crime center is you're not going to do it overnight, right? You're not going to have this big, beautiful center with video walls. It doesn't just happen overnight. It's something you build almost like a business development case. We started our real-time crime center, so to speak, in the backseat of a Chevy Tahoe. We had a few cameras throughout the city. We had a little bit of gunshot detection, and social media was just starting to kind of take off and get big and being used by some of our local gangs. So we actually had an analyst with a laptop in the backseat of our crime center. So a lot of people nowadays flash forward, they come visit our crime center and they see this big, beautiful room and they get kind of intimidated, like, wow, how are we going to get all this? And I tell them, listen, this starts small. It's a business development case for your police department, for your city. We started in a Tahoe. So it's going to start small and you're going to build, especially with technology deployment. You're not going to just put 2,000 cameras out once, right? You're going to start putting some out, adding. As you get more funding, you're going to add more. And then it kind of grows, continues. We started with one analyst and now I have 14 people in this room. So that's step number one. And then, there's a lot of different technologies out there now and it can get kind of overwhelming, but I think the key is video. Video is king. Video is the basis and foundation for all of this, cameras and video. From video comes all these next technologies that integrate together and work well together, but it starts with video.
Building upon what the Sarge just said, what I'm finding, very involved in the National Real-Time Crime Center Association, watching what they're doing. And the best practices really is to talk with people like the Sarge who have already been there, done that. Because as an agency, the worst thing you can do is go out and invest in the technology and find out it doesn't work. And to the sergeant's point, you don't have to start out big. I mean, there's some people that have started out with a laptop. They have a couple of technology, some video management, some cameras up, and then you build upon that. But we're seeing today more and more cities and counties building out real-time crime centers, and I think it's growing at the fastest pace that the Sergeant and I have seen in the last 3-4 years. But my one piece of advice would be reach out to the people that have done it, find out they've got a blueprint on what's been successful, and they'll also, the great thing about police talking to police, the cops are going to tell you what works and what doesn't work, and they're not going to pull any punches. So the biggest piece of advice, I think the sergeant hit upon some of the things you need, but definitely network with other folks in law enforcement, and people like the sergeant are a great resource.
Yeah. In terms of the cases that we talked about, the illegal dumping and also the residential nightclub, when it's a case where a specific house has been reported, then you know to set up a camera there. But what about stopping illegal dumping in general? Like, what are the first steps to go about tackling that problem in the first place? Do you get reports of what are the hot spots and then you set up cameras? What's the first step?
Yeah, illegal dumping, I don't want to say it's easy, but from a standpoint of deploying technology, it is going to be an evidence-based approach, right? You're going to have your areas. They're not illegally dumping in the whole city. They have their spots, and they tend to uh, repeat those spots over and over. There's a comfort level with the spots that are chosen, whether it be a dead end road, out in the woods somewhere. There's some sort of, a dark area without a lot of lighting at night. There's a comfort level to these spots, and we see repeat dumps over and over, and we see that it's the same people. So once we get that communication and that feedback from our public works department where this is occurring on a regular basis, we then start looking at what kind of infrastructure is around there to put technology. Most of the time for these locations, it's going to have to be a cellular solution because again, they are areas that are kind of in dead end roads off the radar. So usually a cellular solution, video camera, license plate reader is what we use right now. Is we put an LPR with 2 cameras. Yeah, so it's an evidence based. We're putting it here because it's occurring here. We have incident data here. Our infrastructure around it has allowed us to put some sort of camera, whether it be a pole or somebody's building, and then we're off and running from there.
Okay.
Great. This kind of ties back, Chris, to setting up a real-time crime center. What kind of training do your officers receive utilizing video analytics tools, the BMS, Milestone, and the analytics with BriefCam?
Yeah, I get this question a lot, and it's interesting because there isn't really like a real-time crime center course you can take, right? Everyone says, "Well, what training do you give your analysts?" There isn't this like one course, and everybody's crime center is different. Everybody has different tools, and everybody has different goals and objectives for what they're trying to do with their crime center. So there isn't like this. You can't get like a degree in real-time crime center. So we really depend on a lot of peer-to-peer training. There are specialized training that we will send. There are some video analytics training. There are a lot of good small courses in isolation, but then we really depend on peer-to-peer training. As our analysts get some experience and get good and get some success under their belt, I will usually pair a new analyst with a seasoned one and get that peer-to-peer training, which really I think is the case with most careers, right? I went to the police academy. When I got out of the police academy, I did not know how to be a police officer, right? I needed to ride with another cop and really get that hands-on training. So I would encourage people, yeah, there are some specialized training and there's different courses you can take out there. But because each crime center really is different, I encourage like good, solid peer-to-peer training and pairing people up, almost like an FTO program with police departments.
And Chris, I think some of the other stuff that comes about is, I know even agencies that do not have real-time crime centers and they're looking to build them out today, I encourage them to go to the National Real-Time Crime Center. Out of all the conferences I attend, and I attend quite a few, I just think when you get in that environment, everybody in that environment are folks like yourself. They have a passion for a real-time crime center. You're only talking about technology and how to make your agency better or how to educate those that are looking to develop a real-time crime center. And I think also, once you have one, I know many agencies are sending their analysts to the national analyst conference where you can sit in a room with hundreds and hundreds of analysts and hear their best practices, because a lot of times we all think what we do in our agency is the best, but by sitting in a room, a lot of times networking, you pick up new tips that can help. So I think those two, as you're looking to build a real-time crime center and on training component, to your point, everybody's got not always the exact same technology. So having a peer that can help teach, and though also if you have a budget, you can send them to like an analyst conference, the national one. I think that's beneficial too. Would you agree?
Yeah, that's you just same point I make is that peer to peer, whether it be in-house or around the country. You know, when we started, there was no such thing as real-time crime center conferences, right? That's kind of a nice luxury that's come about, but it's the same theory. It's getting in the room with like-minded people, peer-to-peer, trading business cards. And you know, we have agencies now that send their analysts to our crime center for a couple of weeks. So when they hire someone, they'll send them here to sit for a couple of weeks to kind of give some foundations and basis. But yeah, I think now more than ever, there's the ability to network with people all around the country, and there's more real-time crime centers around the country, and there's more analysts than ever before. So it's a great opportunity right now. There's a lot of experience out there.
All right. So we have a question about, the process that you developed to combat illegal dumping and get those fines put in place. We've seen some cities where they issue fines, but they don't actually, capitalize on collecting them. So can you talk about the process that you have and what makes it so successful
For illegal
for illegal dumping? Yep.
dumping specifically, or
Yes.
yeah, process is everything. So in our case study, we talk about the process, and I think a lot of times police departments buy technology and get involved in this, and they don't really have a process for how they're going to do it. It's my fire hydrant story, as I always tell. You put out a fire hydrant, it doesn't put out fires. You still need something to trigger the fire department. You need the fire department to get in their truck, drive there, hook up a hose, get water. There needs to be a process behind it. So same thing with anything like illegal dumping. For us, the process was before we put those cameras out, we had the conversation with the courts because the courts are not used to seeing a lot of illegal dumping arrests come their way. So we had a meeting with our local judicial system that handles crimes like that. And we just let them know that, hey, we are going to start deploying some technology. We're going to start making these arrests. And we need them to be prosecuted, right, and handled accordingly because it is a problem in our city. And they really appreciate that. I think with any crime is if you have those conversations with the courts and let them know, hey, these arrests are coming and they're going to be technology based. They're going to come with video. They're going to come with the license plate readers. And hopefully we get some cooperation there, which we did. After that, we decided to form a kind of like a small task force of a couple officers who were going to now handle those cases. So again, illegal dumping is one of those things that don't usually really get investigated. The court doesn't see them. So after we talked to the court, we identified 4 officers that once we did capture these videos and capture these LPR hits, we were going to assign those to those officers, and they were going to really be specialists in taking that course all the way through to arrest warrant to court. So simple process, really. We just have those conversations with the court, get your technology deployed, identify what officers are going to get assigned those, so there's no delay. As soon as we capture, we get that, we know exactly what officer we're pushing that to, and he's going to take that the distance right to court.
Chris, let me ask you, Sarge, too, on the financial impact. I know it costs cities across the U.S. millions, in some cases, of dollars. So I think with Hartford being proactive, you're going to negate some of the costs. I know it's got to a certain number, but if you hadn't started this, I'm sure the number would have just kept growing, right?
Yeah, so we're a small city, so we're not getting into like the millions like some of the bigger cities they do with illegal dumping. We get into the 6 figures, hundreds of $1,000s a year just cleaning up illegal dumping. So that's really how this came our way from the city is, we focus a lot with our technology on, shootings, robberies, and crimes like that. This is something different, but the city actually engages, hey, can you help us? And it does cost them a lot of money. So as we cut down on illegal dumping, it's less money the city has to save. And also subsequently is those conversations we did have with the court created a really good system where as we make these arrests, we provide the value for how much that cleanup costs, and the judge is ordering restitution in these cases in order then to pay that money back to the city. So we're saving money and we're also getting some money back paid to us.
And I'm going to guess from a citizen standpoint, they've got to be quite happy. It shows the police helping to keep their neighborhood clean, because as you know, once it becomes a dump site, it hurts property values. And so I guess it probably develops a little goodwill with citizens too.
Absolutely. It's one of our biggest complaints is trash, noise, some of the things you don't normally think about. And it goes back to the broken window theory, right? If the city looks like garbage, people are going to treat it like garbage. So keeping streets clean not only saves money, it's going to welcome businesses from coming in, residents from buying houses. There's a domino effect to a clean city.
So,
All right.
Chris, we have another question here in regards to, I know you travel across the country, you're promoting what you guys do in Hartford and the successes that you have and the challenges that you face and how you implement your technology. Um, just in your travels and what you know from acquiring this technology and finding funding for it, are you aware of any federal or state grant programs that are out there to assist some of these smaller communities or cities that may look to implement some of this?
Yeah, and we've used a little bit of both state. I can't really speak on state grants. That's state by state, but federal grants. The BGA website, Bureau of Justice, is a great website to go to. Those are DOJ grants that anybody can apply for. It doesn't matter the size of your city. There's a lot of smart city policing grants in there. And there's a lot of grants, even just based on violence or crime, that you can tie in the use of technology. So we got a grant recently that it was a community violence intervention partnership grant, and I was able to articulate in that grant application, yes, this is a community violence grant, but we're going to use technology to assist in community violence partnerships. And we got awarded that grant. So get creative and think of ways you can use technology. There may not be a grant that says, hey, this is a grant for buying video cameras, or this is a grant for, you're going to rarely see those. They're going to be wrapped around some community issue. And if you can articulate that you're going to use technology to create solutions to that issue, there's a good chance you can get awarded that grant. And there's also a lot of grants where, you think, oh, we don't have a shot at that, but sometimes a lot of police departments don't put in for these grants. You may have a grant out there that only a couple PDs put in for, and they're looking to award to 10 PDs. So it's really helpful to put in for it. Again, my recommendation to people is not just look for grants that say technology, right? Here, this is a grant to buy cameras. It's most of those federal grants are going to be problems within your community, and you just need to articulate that you're going to use and leverage technology to come up with solutions for those problems.
Excellent.
I wanted to ask a question about accountability and some of the potential privacy concerns when using video analytics. And also, what are the benefits of promoting transparency when you're setting up your command center? So could you speak to that?
Yeah, we've been very transparent here, kind of just organically happened. We did have some initial pushback in our community. I think anytime police departments start getting cameras, technology, there's some hesitancy. What's going to happen with that? There's a thought process that you're going to be proactively using surveillance technology, which once you're in a real-time crime center, you realize you're really using it as from an investigative standpoint more than a proactive. So we're not just surveilling around live looking for people doing things wrong. We're responding to criminal incidents that occur, and we're helping with those investigations. So transparency is huge, but I always say, if you don't tell them what you're doing, they're going to assume what you're doing. So if you set up a real-time crime center and you don't engage the public or your local news, and you don't talk about it, and you don't tell them what you're doing, they're going to assume what you're doing, and they're going to probably assume you're doing something negatively. And as you progress, you're going to need, as we talk about state grants and funding, you're going to need those other agencies in your city. You're going to need the community. You're going to need their support a lot of times to get that funding. So here we have an open door policy here, although there is a lot of sensitive information going on here. We have always allowed churches, the Boy Scouts come here every year, the news, we've had press conferences in here. We've always had an open door policy, and we've always broadcast our successes. So if we have a crime that happens, if we have a homicide and we solve that with cameras, we'll tell the news that. We'll say, hey, this was caught on video. We used the video to solve this crime. A lot of police departments are hesitant, right? Because they don't want to put their secrets out there. We don't want them to know we have video or cameras. Trust me, you're not going to blow your secrets. Cameras do not change behavior in most instances. We have been FOI'd before. Where are your cameras? We'll put it right out there. It doesn't matter. And if that happens to deter crime, then that's even better. But be transparent, tell them what you're doing, broadcast your successes. I recommend heavily keeping data on your crime center. So if there are questions that come up about what's going on in your crime center, you can produce data. You can produce what technology you're using, time of day, day of week, case numbers associated with each use of the technology can really help as well. I have been to some crime centers. I went to one in Europe. They were heavily guarded. They had barbed wire around it. They were very secretive about that crime center, and in turn, they actually had a poor relationship with their community on that technology use. Hartford went from hesitancy to we go to community meetings now, and they're begging for more. We have neighborhoods that are jealous that some neighborhoods have more cameras than others. So went from negative to extreme support and positive, which has turned into state grant funding, city council voting on funding for us. Again, you're going to need city council to vote on some of these things when you want to spend big money. Um, so do not keep this a secret police mission, I guess is my advice.
And I think, Sarge, just to touch upon and add to what you just said, it is important to share your successes with the community because you're touching so many different aspects of the community. It's not just fighting crimes all the time. What I like about what Hartford is doing is, whether when you talk about illegal dumping, I mean, you're helping, the parks and the recreation areas that are being dumped on, city planning, emergency management, some of the government buildings, all these buildings are taking advantage of some of the great work you're doing. And it's not always revolving around just solving a particular crime. I think what you've seen, whether it's the fire department, helping them in some situations, I think a real-time crime center touches more different areas of a city than people realize. So I think promoting that is very important, as you say.
Yeah, let me give you an example. So when we started the illegal dumping, when we got the first initial request to put a camera and help with illegal dumping, it was kind of a him-haw moment because we did have some mobile cameras around the city, but I really, they were tasked to our high crime areas or shooting areas. But, at the end of the day, I was like, all right, let's see if we can do this. I moved the camera from another location and retasked it to illegal dumping. Once we had about a dozen successes with catching people there, the city public works actually came to me and said, "Hey, we would like to buy more cameras like that." And they end up buying $110,000 worth of mobile cameras for the PD because we had helped them and they wanted some help in other areas. So um, by branching and extending an olive leaf, not only did we help the community and create some positivity around it, we actually in turn ended up getting some investment back into us from another agency in the city.
I'm starting to see a little of that across the country, particularly like traffic studies. Cities are spending so much on traffic studies, but you've got that ability, like in BriefCam, we can go into a research module and pull all those analytics. And once again, a lot of mayors, a lot of city managers have smart city initiatives, but to be able to show them you've already got a tool in place to help them. But then it helps you create another funding source. Like you said earlier, Sarge, you can go to somebody and say, look, you want to do a traffic study on this street? I could use a few more cameras. I'll do whatever you need. I can run reports by the day, by the hour, and do all this stuff working with the BriefCam and working with our Milestone VMS system. We can pull all this stuff out. And sure, buy us a few more cameras. So it's another funding source, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's been my answer many times when I've been asked, "Hey, can you do this?" Sure, I can, but I'm going to need some hardware. I'm going to need a couple more cameras. So it opens up some good conversations, and people are willing to invest back into us if it
And I
means.
think it's important to note, you talk about Hartford as a city. I think your population somewhere in the 120,000 range, but you folks started 7, 8 years ago. I think you only had like 100 cameras. And today, maybe let everybody know because of the success on some of the things you're talking about. I mean, you have grown your camera network which will rival probably any real-time crime center in the country for the population, but you've done it through grants, keeping different departments in the loop. What do you have for cameras today from where you started out, Sarge?
Yeah, we're at about 1,300 cameras. We've also extended our gunshot detection to the whole city. We've also started third-party camera ingestion programs. I mean, we've gotten into full BriefCam, licensing for our entire city of cameras. We are the digital forensics lab of the department. We process cell phones, hard drives, vehicle infotainment systems. So we have really, because of our transparency, because of our success, because of our relationship with other agencies in the city, I don't want to say I have a blank checkbook because I don't, but they've been very trusting in things that we want to move towards next or expansions in cameras. They have such a trust for us now that we've had very little pushback. We started a drone program a couple years ago. We've had very, very little pushback because of everything we just talked about.
Okay, a question on your research. So we know that you're a lead scholar, and on top of all the things that you do, you also like to publish your research on some of the statistics and things that you found so that you can, help other departments. About contextual video. So even when video only captures the context, there's a 345% increase in solvability. So can you just give me an example of what that context might be? Is there a case that you worked on that the context helped solve it?
Yeah. So what contextual video is, let me back up. A lot of people, when they start deploying cameras, they become obsessed with capturing the incident, right? Where is it? We want to capture the whole incident, and capturing an incident is good. It's not a bad thing, but it can also be a luxury. It can be very hard to guess where your incidents are going to pop on the map. So we focused more on getting cameras. There's certain neighborhoods. What are the exit and entrance routes to that neighborhood? So, if a crime occurs anywhere in this neighborhood, how are they getting in and out of there? What are the main roads traveled? What are the roads that lead to the highways when people are trying to get out of the city? If they, do a shooting in a car and they want to jump on the highway. And I think that's more important because contextual video can be just as important. And what we mean by contextual video is I don't catch the shooting, but I catch the car driving away from the shooting and I get the license plate. That's had almost as high solvability increases as capturing the actual incident. Uh, you know, Suspects running away on foot, anything like that is what we call contextual video. It's not the incident itself, but it's video that helped in that investigation. It's video that pieced something together. So in our study, a contextual video had, like you said, a 345% increase in solvability. So without even capturing the incident, just capturing context video.
So as I'm doing presentations to folks across the country now that are looking at real-time crime centers or trying to get more funding, I'm showing them the study out of the University of Pennsylvania that it was in conjunction with Hartford PD, and they can't believe the numbers. Are like, boy, if I can bring these numbers, Tim, to the city council, to the mayor, and show them, I mean, these are hard, cold facts that if you have a camera up and it captures the incident itself, the chance of a conviction in that case is even what, greater than DNA today. When you talk about that, people are like, this is unbelievable. So I like this study you did. I like this. And I've got to tell you, I was on with two agencies yesterday and I was showing them this slide and they said, hey, Tim, can you share this with us? Because this is powerful stuff that I think our city has to know when we are looking to, number one, either open a real-time crime center, the technology we want to put in, the success that comes on this study is, it speaks for itself. I mean, can you talk a little about that?
Yeah, which is exactly why we decided to do this. We had good data on our real-time crime center going back several years. There's a lot of people with real-time crime centers that know they're working. They can walk around anecdotally and say, yeah, we're having a success, we're efficient, we're working, but nobody could really like put their hands on it and really articulate it. So because we had good data here, and we do good case reviews here with our violent crime, I engaged with Professor Lisa Barrow, who is a professor from the Penn University, putting together a peer-reviewed research study on the effects of video evidence on violent crime. We did this just on violent crime, specifically gun crime. It was a sample size of 243 shooting cases. 243 shooting cases. And we case reviewed each case to find RTCC activities around the case. Was there video evidence present? And what was the outcome of those cases compared to shooting cases that did not have video? And you can see the numbers there. Cases that had video evidence associated it had a 442% increase in solvability, which is a massive return on investment from technology purchases. And we did this not only to help ourselves, but we really wanted to help other agencies who either have technology or are looking to start purchasing technology. This is a great return on investment justification. In this study, video evidence was actually stronger than cooperating witnesses, which I was not expecting. But if you really think about it, it makes sense. Cooperating witnesses lie, they can be found unreliable on stand. Video does not lie. If you put video in court and you present video evidence in court in front of a jury, it is really hard to argue. It is really damning. And it was the most powerful variable in our study here was video evidence.
And once again, that comes back to gather this video evidence, to have it, put it in a sequence where you can use it in a timely manner. We know the quicker you can find and go through evidence using your video management system like a Milestone and using BriefCam technology, the chance of solving the crime, getting a conviction are high. And I think that's the message too. We look at the numbers here. The numbers don't lie. And I think it's a great leadway into why people should have real-time crime centers, why they should invest. And even if they don't have what we typically call a real-time crime center, just having some cameras up, having a VMS in place, just starting small. I mean, that is the biggest deterrent, I think, as you mentioned earlier, Sarge, that, recording something from an incident, that's about as powerful as it gets.
Yeah, and everybody wants it now, and the public wants it, right? The courts want it. Everyone's getting spoiled by video, so it's really powerful. I really recommend reading this case study, because in that case study, it's not just about having the cameras out there. We really talk about the process of using the cameras, the process of having well-trained end users in a real-time crime center, and having these things ingested into a single point, and then getting that information out to your officers fast and speed, right? So we talk about BriefCam and analytics, that's part of that process. We want to get this data, we want to get this video, we want to analyze it, and then we want to get that out very quickly to our officers that are responding on scene. And the reason why the real-time crime center concept came into effect was speed, right? Cameras weren't new. We were putting cameras out in streets 10, 15, 20 years ago, but what we found is that officers and investigators were not getting that video until the next day or hours after the incident. So there was this huge gap in investigative time. The whole concept of the real-time crime center was based on speed, is getting this stuff quickly in real time and getting it out.
And, to touch upon that, Sarge, I mean, you nailed it. I was dealing last year with a state police agency across the U.S., and they say, hey, Tim, we've put up 50 poll cams. And what's happened now is we're bringing in so much data, our troopers can't keep up with reviewing it. And really what happens, they say the average attention span to somebody watching video is about 16 minutes, and that might be on the long side. Having all these cameras, they deployed them, but they didn't have the proper technology to go through and review it rapidly. So I think a lot of agencies, as you know, Sarge, as you talk to folks across the country and they visit you, they all brag about the number of cameras they have up, and that's great. They've made that investment. So what's the next best investment that they can to analyze it and help solve stuff and, much faster?
Yeah, it's the fire hydrant analogy, right? The fire hydrant alone doesn't put out fires quickly. You still need the tools and the process behind it, and it's the same thing with cameras. And one thing police departments learned in the infancy of deploying cameras is that cops were not going to watch video on the way to a scene, right? Cops, they're driving their cruiser, they're working their MDT, they're using their lights and sirens, they're watching around them, and then you add, are they going to watch video on their MDT or on their phone? We find that no, that's not the case. So adjusting them into a real-time crime center where we can do that for them and we can do it quickly and push that out to them and then get rid of all the white noise of video and just give them what they need. Again, like you said, when an investigator doesn't want to watch 5 hours of video, we're going to do that for them quickly with tools like BriefCam, with our knowledge that our analysts have, and then we're going to just give them what they need quickly. They don't need the 500 cars going down the road. They need the one car that is their suspect vehicle.
Yeah, in regards to collecting video evidence, your study basically shows that it's much more important to invest into getting more video, whether it's just context around it too. So now with local residents and businesses all putting up video cameras, what's your method of collecting third-party data or third-party video and then pulling it back into your system?
Yeah, so we've really progressed, from only just a few years ago, where our analysts, they have their own vehicle. We're driving out, you know, sometimes 5 to 10 times a day collecting video from private residents, businesses, bringing that back. And it's very valuable, right? That's been extremely valuable for us. But then we start progressing toward like, well, how can we make this quicker? How can we eliminate that gap? How can we get that in real time and leverage other people's cameras like we do our own cameras? So think of a burglary of a gas station. Officer shows up, takes the report, finds out that there's cameras at the gas station, calls one of my analysts. My analysts drive out there. They get the video, they bring it back here, they put it on a disc, they give it to the robbery division. The robbery sergeant takes that disc and takes that case, assigns it to a robbery detective. The robbery detective's off that day. And then the next morning when he comes in, gets that video, gets the picture of his suspect, puts it on a flyer, and emails that flyer out to everyone. That process there, that could be 5 days from time of robbery to when the image in the video of that suspect is out there. So how do we close that gap and speed it up? Well, let's ingest those cameras into our crime center. And there are multiple companies doing that. We do use a third-party company where we are installing a piece of hardware in these locations with their consent and with an MOU signed to allow us to pull that video live and here. So now when that robbery occurs, we have an analyst responding immediately, downloading the video and pushing that image out, sometimes as the officers are responding to the scene. We've just eliminated the days of information gaps.
Are we going to talk also, I think, Joseph, about the reduction in maybe gun violence or shootings or murders based upon technology?
Yeah, so maybe if you could talk about your lowest gun crime statistic and what contributed to it and what you're doing to combat that.
Sure, yeah. As we know, most of the research on law enforcement technology has been technology in isolation, right? So gunshot detection alone, does that make crime go down? CCTV cameras in isolation, does that make crime go down? That's an unfair responsibility to put on a plastic camera. We know there's many other things that come into the reduction of gun violence and crime. But there really hasn't been any research on that CCTV being ingested live into a room in conjunction with analytic tools, gunshot detection, end users, processes for putting that information out. That's what our study is taking away the isolated research, all those technologies working in together with a process. And I believe that as you create more solvability, you make more apprehensions, and the more drivers of violence that are not walking around your city, then you should see reductions in gun violence. So we did see 2024, the largest reduction in gun violence in about 20 years in the city of Hartford. But there was a downward trend nationally of gun violence. There was these huge spikes during the pandemic, and then we kind of came back down to normal. But Hartford actually went way down below normal to its lowest in 20 years. There are many other factors that play into that, and there's no research that can attribute one thing to it. But I know from being here that our use of technology, our creation of solvability around incidents that would normally have little to no solvability, is played a huge factor in reducing gun violence in this city.
No, one thing I like that I think Hartford is doing is their real-time crime center is more than just fighting crimes. There's so many things that go on the course of a day, a week, a month in a city. And I think they're a helping hand to so many different departments. And I think that's an important message to get out to anyone that's looking at real-time crime centers or even trying to enhance what they have in place. I mean, the more different folks, agencies, departments within a city you can touch and help, I think that just makes your real-time crime center um, more effective, more meaningful, and very respected by the folks in the community. And I think the sergeant's done a great job, him and his staff, doing that. And I know they're always looking for different ways to make an impact in the city. And it doesn't always revolve just around reducing crime. Wouldn't you agree, Sarge?
Yeah, it really is important to rope in the entire city, engage everyone in your use of technology. Do not keep it just a secret police mission. We just recently this winter we had a really cold winter here, and they asked us if we could find homeless people in the woods, so that they could send people out there to try to get them to shelters or bring them sleeping bags. So we started using thermal cameras on our drones to find homeless people in the woods. Now that doesn't sound super exciting and fun, but it meant a lot to those city entities and to those community-based projects and entities. Um, to the point where I guarantee you we'll have full support in drone use from now on in the city of Hartford. So doing little things like that can go a long way.
Thank you. And I think for BriefCam, for Milestone, and all the technologies that you use, Sarge, what we really enjoy here today is that you're sharing this information to help make other agencies knowledgeable of what's out there, knowing that you're a resource that anybody can call at any time. And you guys in Hartford have been pioneers in this for many, many years. When this was just a vision for a lot of agencies, you guys are out doing the real deal. So I think it's important. We can all learn from successes in life. And with you sharing your knowledge, what you do every day is much appreciated. I know as I talk to folks around the country. So thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. We love it. It's not just me. I don't want to make it a me thing. I have an amazing staff in here that do all this work, and they welcome when I bring people in here. My analysts will sit and talk and give little mini tours, and everyone here. We have some people here that have been in this room for a long time, 6, 7 years. So it's a lot of 6 years looking at cameras and doing this kind of work is a long time, and they're loaded with a lot of experience. They love to share that with other people.
Well, Sarge, I just wanted to thank you again for sharing your story here with us today. As everyone can see, I put down the contact information up on the screen. So if you have any questions for the sergeant or even for our team, please do feel free to reach out to us. This session is also recorded, so I'll be sharing the video as well as the slides for anyone who wants them. We have a lot more cases coming up in the future, some within other industries like retail or hospitality, so please stay tuned. We'd love to have you again. Thank you all for joining today, and I hope you all have a great day.